What's up, everybody? Here we are again for another Tuesday. We are here. It's Tuesday. It's time for the life of an entrepreneur. I got Larry that came in before we got here saying, I'm on here. Is this happening? Yes, it is happening. There were some technical difficulties with the sound, so that caused us to be 2 minutes behind, but we are here. We are ready to engage in another episode of the life of an entrepreneur. A great show coming up today. They've all been great. If this is your first time, this is your first experience with this, listen, you need to get out pen and paper. You need to get out your electronic note on your phone, whatever you want to do, because I'm sure that there will be some gems that will be dropped today. We already have folk in the comments. We got Des Dillinger in the comments. Nice. Let's go. We have Verna Haywood. Verna Haywood. Shout out to Verna Haywood. She's in the comments as well. Thank you for being here. So listen, we're going to get ready for this. You know that I say this all the time. Entrepreneurship is a journey, and we need to enjoy the journey. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to buckle up. I want you to get out something to take notes, and I want you to get ready for what you will receive today on this episode of The Life of an Entrepreneur. Let's go. Hey, listen, we are back. We're here. This is Tuesday, and on Tuesday, this is what happens on Tuesday. We got some folk in the house. Carol Edmondson is in the house. What's up, Carol? My guy Wes is in the building. Wes, how you doing, man? Thank you for being here. Thank you for all of you who are here and jumping in the comments. Listen, do me a favor, share this with somebody. We want to share this with folk who are aspiring to be entrepreneurs. We want to share this with folk that are well on their journey in entrepreneurship, because there will be something here for everybody. If you don't know who I am, my name is Oliver Marcel. I am your host for this show, and I am an author, speaker, and coach in the relationship building and men's enrichment spaces. I sit on a stool, if you will, in entrepreneurship that has three legs. One is the relationship building leg. I love to see relationships thrive, and so I speak on stages about that. I coach individuals in that regard. And I wrote a book for that, which takes me on the second leg, which is men's enrichment. Men's enrichment. I love to see men win in every area. And so I coach men. I speak to men in that regard. The third leg is a media leg. I do voiceovers. I do content creation and all those kinds of things. Listen, the whole goal being what is on my t-shirt. 2020 before hindsight is on my t-shirt. That is the mantra. I have learned so many things the hard way. I have experienced some things that I probably should not have experienced. But my goal is to share my journey in hopes that it will encourage and inspire, and that somebody will gain some level of clarity on the front end before they do something that may throw off the trajectory of their lives. That's me. I'm your host today. This show, as with all the other episodes, is brought to you by Love Entrepreneurs. Love Entrepreneurs is a fellowship of individuals, business owners, entrepreneurs, with the sole goal of helping ordinary people build extraordinary businesses. And there's several ways that we do that. We're going to talk about one of those later on when we bring our guest in. Let's get into some of these comments. We got some other folk here, man. We got Reem in the house. What's up, Reem? Reem did a big fix not too long ago. Shout out to Reem. Thank you for being here. Barry Tate is in the house. Greetings from Trinidad and Tobago. Larry, what's good? Said Oliver Marcel. I've been doing this most of my life. Exciting to get your perspective. Thank you for being here, man. I really appreciate you being here. Carrie Roberts is in the house. Good morning, Carrie. How are you? And Dr. Johnny Parker, outstanding work. Thank you for that. Man, Crazy David is in the house. They're just pouring in. I love it, man. Thank you. Hey, bro, just make sure that you don't sit on your stool when it's upside down. Listen, that is fantastic advice. Thank you for that. So that's me. Listen, Shameless plug. If you want to support your boy by getting a t-shirt, this is actually my t-shirt. A lot of people don't know that, but this is part of the merchandise that I have. And so that would be great. Anywhere that you're watching this right now, you will see in the description a place where you could support me. All right, that's enough. I got one quick thing I want to say before we bring on Master Tailor Thom Bennett, who has an incredibly inspirational story. And we want to hear his story and his journey to entrepreneurship. The one thing I want to leave with you before we get into that, those of you who are new to this, I always kind of give just a little snippet before we get into it. I want to talk about failure really quickly. Failure for a lot of folks has been a dirty word. And I want you to work on changing your perspective if you have not already around failure. Failure is not a stopping point. And if I use myself as an example, most of you know I'm very transparent about my journey. I've run across some things, uh, some failures in my life. I've run across some disappointments in my life. And there was a time where those disappointments would stop me in my tracks. And I have since learned that failure is not a stopping point. It should not halt you. It should be something that you learn from that actually catapults you into the next phase of your life. Failure is just an opportunity for follow up. A loss can be turned into a lesson. So I want you to think about that, because on this journey of entrepreneurship, listen, there are going to be some times where you are banging your head up against the wall. Man, this is not working the way that I designed it. I've been there. Listen, when I first jumped out of the corporate space into full-time entrepreneurship, I had a semblance of a plan and realized that it wasn't working the way that it was supposed to work. Now, I could have given up. I could have packed it all in and said, you know what, forget about this. Or I could take the lessons from it, develop strategy, and keep it moving. So I want to encourage you guys, use failure, use the losses, take the lessons from them, craft strategy around those things, and it will help you to move in the direction that you should move next. Now, that may mean completely doing a shift and a pivot, if you will, or that may mean digging your heels in, going back to the drawing board and sticking with what you have, right? If you're passionate about it, I say this all the time, everybody has a purpose, a passion, and a path, and it is discoverable with a little persistence. So don't let those failures stop you in your tracks. Take what you need to take from it, learn what you need to learn from it, and keep it moving. That is my message for you today. Uh, Larry says you should know Jonathan Rosen. You both talk about love and business. Absolutely, man. Let's make that connection. Let's connect with Jonathan. I would love to have a conversation with him. The biggest thing I've learned about failure is that pain is unmanifested joy. When we experience that pain, it gives us a gift, man. That is incredible. Larry is dropping wisdom in the comments. The external change comes after the inner transformation moments. I love it. So that's my little piece of wisdom for you today before we get into our guest. We got a great guest. Man, listen, this guest can get on the turntables, and this guest can make you the most incredible suit that you've ever seen. We're talking to Master Tailor Thom Bennett today. I'm going to let him introduce himself in just a moment. So I'm giving you this moment to get ready for some inspiration, to get ready for some gems being dropped, to get ready for some just some good conversation. And if you're ready, let's go. Let's bring on my guy, Thom Bennett. Thom, thank you for being here, man. It's my
Yeah, it's cool. Thanks, Oliver. It's great.
indeed. I see you in the workspace. You got the workspace behind you. That's awesome.
Yeah. I'm working today. Well, I'm always working, but yeah, I think it looks better than having it in my sitting room or somewhere like that. I was told I need to dress the set more, so there you go.
Hey, I love it. I love seeing you in that environment. I know Thom, and so we've been on meetings in the past where we could see Thom kind of working in the background, and it's really cool to see Thom doing. It's cool to see you doing your thing, man. Lisa's in the comments. Lisa Brown said, let's go. So let's go. Let's do it. So before we get into it, Thom, introduce yourself. More of a formal introduction. Tell us who you are and what you do, and then we'll get into it.
Well, formal introduction. My name's Thom Bennett. I'm a third generation Master Tailor, descended from a legendary founder of a Savile Row company, Anderson Sheppard. He's my great uncle. It was handed down through the business and through the family. Sadly, it stopped at my cousin, but it's so I come from that lineage of tailoring. Never really worked on Savile Row, didn't train on Savile Row, but my family was Savile Row. Okay. And I kind of, it's in the blood, it's in the fingers, as I like to say. And I've been tailoring, well, we'll get into that, but I've been tailoring this time, and you'll understand that in a bit, for about a decade.
Okay, good stuff. So I love it, man. And we're going to get into that story. We got Verna in the comments saying pain is manifested joy. I love that. Yeah, listen, Larry's in the comments dropping gems. And Crazy David said is giving a shout out to Lisa in the comments. Hi, Lisa from Crazy David. So listen, let's get into this story, man, because you have overcome some challenges in life. You have, I guess you could say, made a career change or added something. And you used to do one thing and it kind of morphed into you following in the footsteps of your family. Listen, I'm going to be quiet. Take us from the beginning, man, and just share your story and what's the journey that brought you to where you are right now.
Well, I mean, if I go way back, from when I was a lad, I live in Bristol now in the UK, but I used to live in Surrey, just sort of south of London. And Mum used to go up to London quite a lot, up to town, as we say, to do shopping, go to libraries, look around, do stuff that mums do in town. And she would drop me off at the tailor shop. And I didn't know anything. I just knew it was a tailor shop. It happened to be Anderson and Sheppard's. And I'd be babysat by the tailors. From a very young age, I moved to Bristol when I was 7, so we're talking pre-7. And so I kind of got into it. My mum was a seamstress, although she was actually a mathematician by trade. She was a scientist, but she was a dab hand on a sewing machine, and so I kind of sort of picked it up quite a lot. I used to make uniforms for my Action Men, which in America it's G.I. Joe, but in the UK we have this thing called Action Man. So I used to make uniforms for that, and then I kind of really wanted to get into tailoring, but my mum always dissuaded me. I didn't find out really. Well, I say I haven't really found out, but I realised now that there was some darkness in the tailoring side of the family, that which is one of the reasons why Anderson Sheppard was sold, but we still don't know why. I was chatting to a cousin of mine the other day actually about this, and none of us know. None of us younger ones. I mean, I'm 57, but the older people who are all passed away now didn't tell us the secret of why this all happened. So, there's kind of mum wanted me to do other things, and but she understood that I had this passion for tailoring. I did sewing at school, home economics we call it in the UK, and so I kind of wanted to do my apprenticeship at the tailor shop, but it was sold when I was 14, and so I went up to Liverpool to study and do an apprenticeship and all that kind of stuff. So I did a fashion design course with tailoring, and then did some apprenticeship work as well with my tutor who became my master. But then, trying to get work in those days, it's like in the late 80s, lots of tailors, I went into a couple of tailor shops in Bristol, tried to extend my apprenticeship, and they were saying, no, the trade's dying. Armani had just come out with his really boxy, ready to wear, and everyone was going ready to wear. I mean, I didn't know then, but I do know now that every decade, young tailors are told this, that it's not going anywhere, and don't just do something else, and then Acid House came out, and I used to be really into what we call Northern Soul in the UK, which is just soul R&B from the 60s and 50s, and I used to go out dancing to that. I was a bit of a mod at the time, still am a little bit. And then my mate said, you'd love this new dance music. It's still out dancing all night long. You'll have a great time. And then a friend of mine had some turntables, some Technics, and he started learning to mix. And I thought, oh, that looks fun. And so I learned how to DJ, and then spent the 90s misbehaving in the rave scene. Playing techno. Acid techno is my thing. I've still got my decks in the other room, and a lot of records. I lost quite a lot of records, actually. I've moved around a bit, and records have gone missing and been stolen and just lost. So I still have quite a decent collection. And so I spent the 90s doing that. I then started helping friends with running PA systems, and I got really into sound and sound design, and ended up at university with a master's degree in radio production and sound design. I'm actually a qualified Pro Tools engineer. Pro Tools, you'll know, and anyone who's into sound will know, is the industry standard sound editing software, and it's quite an in-depth piece of kit. And so I'm, to be honest, I've probably forgotten more than I've ever known, but I am a qualified Pro Tools engineer. And so I kind of did that and drifted around, and I never really succeeded in anything. You talked about failure just now. I just saw everything as being a failure, and I did see it as a bad thing. I didn't see the positive side of failure, which I do now. And so I kind of drifted around, did various things. I even became a van courier delivering parcels for a while, which led me to the change in my life when I got run over. I've got a crushed spine, and I've got a metal pole that goes up through it, titanium rod to hold my back together. And a friend of mine said to me, you make trousers for yourself and for friends. Why don't you do that as a job? And I said, well, to make trousers for a job, you need to be a production line, really. You don't get paid a lot, especially by some of the higher class establishments. The money isn't really there, so you need volume. And because of the pain, and I'm not, the way I was taught to tailor isn't a volume thing. And I'll tell you more about that in a bit. And so I thought, well, I need to get my skills back up together in coat making and pattern drafting. And I received a small payout from the insurance company, and met a guy called Rory Duffy, who lives in Ireland. He's a former Henry Poole Savile Row master coat maker, tailor. And so I went over to see him, and he trained me back up again, got me back up to speed, which was quite interesting because I was there for nearly a year. And after, nearly 40 years, well, actually less than that at the time, because I've been doing this for a decade now, nearly, 30 odd years. All the stuff that I'd learned when I was 16, 17, 18, just suddenly started coming back into my head again. And it was like I'd never put my thimble down. I mean, my thimble's always on my finger. It's like nothing had ever happened. And I had, so I got out my old tools, because I had my shears and my tailor's square and everything were handed down to me by my cousin when I was 16, while he was still alive. So I got all this out again, and I thought, oh, okay. And I haven't, not really looked back. It's been a great journey since then. I've learned a lot again, and just playing around with different styles and designs. I've now got my own style that I like to do, which is that one, not what I'm wearing. This is a mod style, but the one behind me that's more my style. Nice wide lapels and flair and stuff, and so and here I am now, really. So back tailoring again, and it's always been my passion, tailoring. I've always said to people, even when I was out DJing, I wish I stayed in tailoring. I really regret not doing it as a career. All this time I could have been in the old Marlon Brando. I could have been someone, and then, well, that's by the by, because I am now again. So that's not important. So I realise now that probably a lot of that journey of failure and not really getting anywhere as a DJ particularly, and I used to run a club night, which was okay, and then the accident, it's just really made me stronger inside as a person, really, to be honest.
Man, that's inspirational to me, right? Because I didn't have anything as great as like the accident, but just looking at just your journey of there being something inside you, and Barry in the comments was talking about entrepreneurship is a legacy that's worth passing down. Just this thing that's inside you, and even you said tailoring, it's in your hands, like
Yeah.
it's in your blood. And so you began that journey sitting at the feet of your family who was doing this.
Yeah, well, I can remember sitting on my cousin's knee as a small boy and
Yeah,
him showing me how to use a needle and thimble. I can still remember that now.
man. And then the thing about, I say this at the beginning of every show and at the end of every show, entrepreneurship as life is a journey. And then from that you take a journey, right? You take a journey, you get your feet wet in that industry, you get introduced to music, and then you take that journey kind of veers off into the music scene, and you get, listen, even listen, I can't say that that was a failure, even though that you didn't do that, because how many Pro Tools masters are out there,
Oh,
right?
true.
There's not a whole lot, right? So you go through that, you get good at it, you have some accolades as it relates to Pro Tools and what you're doing with radio. You get a degree in radio, like this is amazing to me, right? And then you go through that traumatic incident, because again the path changes for you, and you're doing some courier work and that kind of thing, and then the accident happens. You come back from that, and fast forward, now you're back in where you are, and all through that, the reason why I'm even saying all that is all through that there's a thread that goes all through that, and that's your passion for tailoring.
Mm.
You just said that even when you were DJing, you're like, man, I should still be doing this, or I should have done, I could. and
Yeah.
and I want to share with folks that are out there, like, listen, don't do not get discouraged if you have a passion and the path doesn't seem like at the moment it's leading to that. Don't get discouraged, because if you talk to many folk, they'll tell you that they went on a similar journey of diversion, maybe not as big events as what happened to Tom, but there's that similar path of diversion. And often what people do is they mistake that path, that diversion, for a dead end, and they stop. I don't want you to mistake your diversion for dead end. That's a tweetable comment right there for those of you who are Twitter folks. I'm not a Twitter guy anymore, but do not mistake your diversion for a dead end. I love that, man. That's a fantastic story. So you've been doing this for 10 years. And let me ask you this, because you're doing bespoke stuff, right? And so
Yeah.
this is not just like you said, every 10 years they kind of tell folk tailors, hey, listen, man, this is a dead end, like don't worry about it. And there may be some reasons for that I'll ask you in a second. But the the um the bespoke space is a very unique space. So what was your inspiration for going that route as opposed to trying to do the mainstream stuff?
Well, I was never really interested in factory work. Although when I was younger, I did try a bit of factory work, but it wasn't really me. I was taught in a very traditional way. My old master was quite an old chap when I was learning, and he did what these tailors used to do, the grand tour, which was they would start generally in a provincial tailors, then they'd probably go down to Savile Row, extend their apprenticeship, learn some more, and then they might go off to France or somewhere around Europe. He went to, like my cousin did, he went to Florence and Naples and learned a lot of tailoring there. My cousin went to Naples, my master went to Florence. And so I picked up a lot of things that he'd learned in those days. And he was a very hand sewing traditional tailor, and I just liked that. And he explained to me why he thought that was a better way than machine sewing. Although he's a dab hand on the sewing machine, and I do have a sewing machine don't use it very much. But you know, he explained to me that, you know, the hand sewing was it's a looser stitch, and so the clothes just tend to sort of just hang together, whereas a machine stitch is quite a rigid stitch, and it's tough, makes a tougher seam. So and I've been told this by people I've made for, and he taught me this as well, that, you know, you get more fluidity in a garment when it's hand sewn, because it's, you know, we use like a silk, and so it has a little natural give to it than cotton does, and the nature of the stitch being looser, it just gives you more movement in the garment, it makes it feel more natural. And so I've taken that with me, and, you know, there's a lot of very good tailors out there who use sewing machines, and I'm not saying anything against any of them. They're all you know, the tailors I know are fantastic. You know, they're great cutters, they're great makers, but it's a different thing. And I just thought, you know, there's a space for me doing what I want to do, which is my passion, which is hand sewing. You know, it takes me 3 times as long to make a suit than it would do if I used a sewing machine. But I feel that, and well, I know that I get a much nicer garment, you know, that's nicer to wear, trousers and jackets, you know, coats, from a hand stitched garment, and I get more satisfaction from it. You know, I mean, we all hand finish, you know, all the edges are hand sewn, the buttonholes are hand sewn, but I do everything else with the needle and thread. You know, all I do with the machine is put pockets in. That's all I do with it. You know, but then, I mean, something I haven't touched on is, you know, recently in the last few years, I've discovered that I'm autistic as well, which I think sort of looking back at my life and sort of floundering around maybe, but doing different things, getting diverted all the time, I can understand that now. But also it gives me, you know, I call it my superpower, especially with tailoring, because, and I can see it back when I was a sound engineer as well, working with sounds and having to edit tight sounds and listen back to things all the time. And it's the same with tailoring. You know, I'm obsessive about detail, and I understand now why, because I'm autistic, and that's a big thing in autism, that you can get very obsessive about details, which is great for sewing because it's all about detail. And if you can't get the details right, then the rest of it's wrong, you know. And so that's been an inspiration, actually, to know that, and then to be able to understand it and then work with it. You know,
and I love that. I love your perspective around that too, right? You discovered that, and then you were able to connect the dots back to certain areas of your life where you were like, okay, I can see why I approach certain things that way. And it being a superpower, to use your words, being a superpower for you in the way that you approach your work. Now, I just learned something. I just learned something about the hand sewn, and it makes sense actually. The hand sewn garments just giving you more fluidity. That's awesome. And I have watched Thom work, guys. So this is not my first time meeting Thom. I've watched Thom work. I've watched him sewing with his hands, sewing the sports coats, man. And it's good stuff, man. He puts some really good work out there. Listen, let's jump in the comments. Barry says, truly inspirational, Thom. It's funny how it's often a friend or loved one that gives us the nudge and support to take the step into doing business for ourselves. Passion plus support plus purpose equals success. I love that, Barry. My guy, Wes, yes, the loss of my parents has created a new focus for me. The journey is everything. Indeed.
Yeah,
Carrie,
that's one thing I'm just about in there quickly. It's one thing I'm quite sad about is my mum passed away 15 years ago, so she hasn't been able to see this part of my journey. That's quite sad in a way, but because I think she would have been quite. My auntie did, but my mum didn't. So that was. But anyway, sorry.
No, that's significant, because we often, you know, we want our family we want to be able to share that, right? So I understand the pain of her not seeing that, man. But yes, she would be incredibly proud of what you are.
I've been self-employed, but you know, I've never had a job. So the thing about being autistic is we find it very difficult working for other people, which is why. But I've always been self-employed, doing everything I've done. You know, I've never had a job, so to speak. You know.
So this journey has been ongoing for you. It's not like others like myself who were in the corporate space and jumped out to do something. You've always been kind of doing your own thing, which
Mm.
I would say is preparation for where you land, right? You've always been preparing and practicing, whether it be in various different arenas for you to land where you are right back in your passion. And
Yeah.
Carrie said, thanks for your transparency. Kudos for you leaning into your superpower. Listen, I love it. I think it is incredibly inspirational, the path that you've been on. And for anybody who's looking at the entrepreneurial space or anybody that's in the entrepreneurial space, we have to get around folk that allow for us to tap into their inspiration in a way that inspires us to continue on our journey as well. And this show is sponsored by a group of people who do just that. And that is Love Entrepreneurs. Love Entrepreneurs is a group of entrepreneurs and business owners with the sole goal of helping ordinary people build extraordinary businesses. And there's a way that they do this, and it's called the Big Fix. The Big Fix is an opportunity for you to sit with a group of business owners and entrepreneurs in all various industries of life. Share your vision for your business, share your pain points, share your challenges. And what that group does, it's like think of a mastermind where you're sitting in the hot seat. It's essentially what this is. That group then goes into breakout sessions, and literally the only goal is for them to come up with a plethora of ideas. They come up with those ideas, they share them with the person who's sitting in the hot seat. You get a report of all of those ideas, and you have some options. You can go forth and be great and implement on your own, or you can work with a group within that, a team within that group to help implementation as well. Both you and I, Tom, went through that process. And here's the thing, it's free. I love the fact that it's free, and it allows you to walk away with some ideas that are extremely beneficial to your business. Juan Lee says hello. Listen, what we're going to do, Tom, is we're going to take a quick break. I'm going to show just a short clip from one of our good friends talking about the Big Fix. And then when we come back, I want to talk about your experience. You did this a while back. Yeah. I've done it a couple times now. I've done it 3 times now. So it's a great experience. We're going to talk about that briefly and then get back into some other things. Sure. So we will be back shortly right after this.
Hi everyone, my name is Elena Lafferty and I'm a high performance coach focusing on intuition at the subconscious level, working with men and women who have become stuck in reverse. So today I was part of this wonderful meeting called Big Fix, and I absolutely loved it because the flow of ideas and suggestions and examples was amazing and have created so much information that I can use for my business. It was incredible. So I just can recommend it. If you ever need some help, this is the place to be. Thank you.
We got Reem in the comments saying it's a transformational transformative process. Highly recommended. Reem just did it recently, and we had a good time with Reem, just pouring into her as well. Barry says, hi, Juan. Barry shouting out Juan Lee. Juan Lee has also done this as well. So Juan can attest to what this process does for you in terms of walking away just with an expanded perspective around your business and a ton of ideas. So Verna says, that's an incredibly inspirational story. My husband usually buys his suits at Savile's. Do you make suits for women? Do you make suits for women?
Yeah, I've got a new client coming in from America in November, and she's very looking forward to it. I showed her this actually. She's very inspired by Paul Weller, so I can imagine I'm going to be making some modern inspired thing for her. Yes, I do women's tailoring.
Okay, there you go.
Children, so you know.
There you go, Verna. So now your husband has get suits from the place that is part of Thom's legacy, and now you can get something for yourself as well, handcrafted. I love the fact. Listen, I love the fact that you could own something that's one of a kind.
Yeah.
I don't own anything, I don't think, in terms of clothing that's one of a kind. So, Thom, you and I might have to talk as well as it relates to getting something nice on my back as well.
Yeah, my cut's quite different as well. You know, it's it's what I do is fairly unique. So, you know.
Yeah, and I love it.
Yeah, I do it myself, so I have a very limited capacity at the moment. So it's even more unique.
I was going to ask you about that as well. Reem said she survived. I was going to ask you before we get into your Big Fix experience. Now you said it takes typically longer, obviously, because you're hand sewing these. So it takes longer to get a suit. So do you cap the number of clients that you have?
No, I mean, I do a waiting list. So people have to be prepared that they might be waiting. You know, I quote sort of 4 to 6 months from time of taking the measurements, but you might have been on the waiting list longer. And I do a reservation fee for that, just to sort of keep everyone serious.
Okay.
You know, but it's it takes 4 to 6 months because of fitting everyone in. You know, so I do, you know, between 20 and 30 I can do a year. So, you know, because I've got to make it, fit it, and do everything myself. So, well, I'm looking at maybe taking on an apprentice next year. So,
okay. That was the next question I was going to ask you. Do you see yourself having a team at some point?
Yeah, I'd like to take. I mean, I don't have kids, so children, young people, whatever we want to call them these days. I don't have any children, so my niece wants to be a football player, soccer player. So, so that's no good. And it'd be nice to pass on my brand of tailoring to someone. You know, because it is different to majority of what you'll get, you know, in especially in the UK. If you go to Naples, you'll get something a bit more similar to what I do, because they're very much hand sewing as well. You know, I call it couture tailoring, which gives you the idea that it's much more a higher level of tailoring, like, you know. So I would like to pass on my skills, because, you know, I'm very much into craftsmanship and tradition, as well as the quality of what I do, you know. And as I say, it is different to a lot of what you'll get. So to pass on those old skills, which you know, I mean, you could, you know, a tailor from 100 years ago could watch me work and recognize everything I do. You know, I don't use certain sewing machines and things because I don't think they have any place in a bespoke studio. You know, but and so it'd be nice to pass that on. So I'll probably be looking for an apprentice next year. And to be honest, it'd be nice to get a neurodiverse apprenticeship as well, apprenticing, because I know the struggles it is to be, you know, neurodivergent and try and get some work and be taken seriously. And then they hopefully have the same attention to detail that I've got. So yeah,
that's a good
team. You know, I work from home. This is my house, so I'd like to, you know, get a proper workshop maybe next year. As well, you know, not necessarily a shop because it's all appointment only, but a nice workshop in a nice part of town would be great as well.
Nice. I love it, man. And I see that happening because the work you do is very high end. So I wanted to put that out there for folk. Like, we're not talking about just regular clothing here. No. We're talking about a very high end, high quality tailoring, high quality materials. Like, this is an investment.
Yeah.
To give you an example, for those of you who want to quantify this somehow, let's say I'm thinking about doing something really special for my 25th year anniversary, which is roughly 2 years from now, right? This is the kind of thing that I would want created. One of a kind, super high quality, just knock them dead when I step into the building kind of thing. This is the type of stuff that
And to be honest, you know, 2 years isn't that long, you know. And so it's the sort of thing that we really probably need to start talking about fairly soon to get you on the waiting list.
Right.
So you're there on the waiting list ready for when that comes around, because, you know, I mean, I don't, you know, Christmas is coming up, but I'm not taking any orders for Christmas now. It's too late.
Okay.
You know, I'm now taking orders for next June.
Got
You
you.
know, so if you've got a wedding in next year sometime, yeah, great. I don't do a lot of weddings because I'm not big on the deadlines for them, because it's just not what I like to do.
Yeah.
But I do dinner suits a lot. I do wedding stuff, but I need to, you need to order it a year in advance, or at least get on the waiting list a year in advance, so it's ready. So you're there, ready in my book, and then I can then pull you up at the right time, come and measure you, and do all that, style consultation, make sure we've got the right cloth and all this kind of stuff, well in advance. I'd like to sort of start on a wedding suit 6 months before, so I know it's done and ready without any stress at the end, just in case anything needs to be altered or changed. And so same with you, Oliver. If you've got something coming up in 2 years' time, then it's something we should talk about within the next 6 months.
Okay. That works.
For anyone else as well,
Yeah.
That's the kind of lead times I like to look at.
Okay.
Because I don't want you coming to me 6 months before and saying, "Can you do this for me?" And I've got a full list of.
You got a full roster. Yeah.
Right. So it's and it is quite unique stuff that I make. So I don't want to disappoint people. So that's why I do this reservation thing as well, because it just keeps everything tight, and keeps everything tight.
Good stuff, man.
Playing it.
Good stuff. Let me grab some of these comments and then we'll talk about your big fix experience. Verna Hayward says, "Hey, Juan." Hello, Juan. Nice to see you are here. Barry Tay said, "The big fix also gives entrepreneurs a great opportunity to add value to other entrepreneurs with their ideas, support, and encouragement." It is. We got Raphael in the house. Raphael said, "Great post. What's the YouTube channel link?" Now, are you asking me for my YouTube channel link? Just clarify that, and I can get it to you. My YouTube channel link is youtube.com/Denali LLC, DENOLI LLC. Now, Tom, speaking of that, right? And let me get Barry's comment, and then I got another question for you, Tom. If you started teaching virtually, I know people here that would take your class. Would you be interested maybe in teaching somebody to do that?
Well, virtually it's difficult. I was chatting to a coat maker friend of mine. That blue coat that I've just been posting recently was made in conjunction with a coat maker friend of mine. I cut it. He did most of the making. Apart from I put the sleeves in, did the buttonholes and a little bit of finishing on it. But we were saying, tailoring is one of those things that you need to be taught really hands-on.
Gotcha.
It's a craft. It's a trade, and you need to be able to feel the cloth and see how it moves and works. There's a lot of stuff you can do virtually. I'm not really a teacher. I can guide and teach, but there are people that do. Well, two people that come to mind. There's a guy called Reza who's he trained at Chiltern and Morgan on Savile Row. He runs the International School of Tailoring on YouTube, and he's fantastic. His content is absolutely brilliant, and that's where people. Or my friend Rory Duffy, who also has an online teaching course. He loves to teach. I do like to teach. I want to pass my skills on, but I feel it's more of a hands-on thing. But I do have a YouTube channel. If you want to find me on social media, all you've got to do is just search for Thom Bennett Tailoring, Tom with an H, and you'll find all my social media. And as you know, Oliver, I'm going to be starting to do a live stream soon. Oliver's got to look through my test one and give me some pointers. I've got to sort the sound out, which is bad being a former sound engineer. But I've got the microphone. I just need to get a new sound card. So yeah, I'm going to do it's like a more of a show and tell, I think, on YouTube. I'm probably doing it 3 times a week. It'd be just some webcams in here, me working, talking about what I'm doing, but not necessarily teaching. They say Reza and Rory do a great job, and Lee Marsh as well, another fantastic former Savile Row tailor. He does a really good channel as well where he teaches things. I'm quite busy, so taking time out to make teaching videos as a thing is going to takes too much time to set up and do when I've got work to do. That's why I thought the live stream might be better, because you've watched me work on certain networking meetings I do, on the casual networking meetings. I don't know on serious ones, and so it's going to be very much like that. And that's what gave me the idea. Actually, it was a conversation with Larry, who runs Love Entrepreneur, with Russell, and it came from that conversation. So it's more me just working and talking about what I'm doing with a comments box so people can ask me questions and things, and then I'll just talk about what, so at the moment I did the testing on, you can't really see it, I'm working on an overcoat at the moment, so my testimonies on that, but when I start properly, I've got a dinner jacket over there, which I'm making, and that's going to be probably the basis of the first series of live streams. I'm going to do it 3 times a week. Give me a chance to actually get some work done, because it still slows me down even doing that.
Yeah,
stop, talk, and and think about things. And when when I work, I don't work with any music on or any radio. I work in silence, so I can concentrate exactly what I'm doing. My friend Kerry, who's the other coat maker, he likes to have some music on and things. I can't work like that. I need complete concentration on what I'm doing. I don't know if that's a part of my neurodivergence or not, but I need to just be able to concentrate, and having distractions, I can make mistakes. I'm still human like everyone else. Even though I've got superpowers, I'm still human.
Right.
And so I don't want to sort of mess anything up. Even if it's just working on my own stuff. When I've got time, I do everything with purpose, whether it's my stuff or clients' things. I make everything exactly the same way. I don't skip anything when I'm making my stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I make mine as if I'm a client. So, I don't want to make any mistakes. I want everything to be perfect as much as I humanly can make something perfect.
Yeah. Understood.
So
understood. Good stuff, man.
That's like the barriers. But I'd love to come to TNT sometime, Barry, and do some in-person class. Would be fantastic. I love the Caribbean.
Barry, set it up, Barry. Make it happen. So we can get Thom over to Trinidad and Tobago, man, to do something in person. Listen, there's a couple things I want to do before I let you go. One is I want to talk very briefly about your Big Fix experience, because this is sponsored by Love Entrepreneurs, and we want people to do this Big Fix experience. One, because it's free. One, because it's free, and two, because I promise you will leave with ideas. I haven't been a part of any Big Fix experience, whether me being in the hot seat or me actually just being part of the contribution, where we haven't left with something to think about. So what was your experience like?
I did it a long time ago, and Hilarious changed the format slightly now. It's much more organized. Not that, don't want to say it was totally disorganized, because it wasn't, but you get this report and everything now, which I didn't really get. But I learned a lot, because I didn't know anything about social media or anything like that. So I've been self-employed and in business all my adult life, doing different things. My career business was really successful until I got run over. I was just about to increase my fleet, and become a fleet owner. So, the business side of things I'm not too bad with, but I didn't understand social media and how that really works. And that's really what I got from it for me. But as you say, it's the other sessions where, and I haven't been for a while because it's in the middle of the day, and sometimes it can interrupt my work. But it's the sessions that you go to as a giver, that you learn more from, I think, when you're in the breakout rooms having chats, and the information that everyone gives to the receiver, to the participant. That's what I've really picked up more about business and social media and just general things, just from that kind of experience. It's great to go as both, to give and to receive. It's great to give and receive anyway. And that's kind of how I saw Love Entrepreneurs, and still do. I think the way it's done now is just fantastic. You get this really good report, and I'm due for another one at some point, I should imagine. Larry has mentioned it a couple of times.
So, she'll stay on top of you.
So I didn't get a report. I just made loads of notes. I've still got them in my notebook. And so it was a little bit sort of not very structured, but that was just me taking the notes. But now with the report and all that kind of stuff, I think that's even better. I think it's a fantastic thing to do. And everyone becomes friends, as you keep saying, Oliver. It's a fellowship, and it is, and we are all friends. I've not known you massively a long time, but I feel that you're a friend of mine now.
Indeed.
And same with everyone else. Crazy David and Larry, Peter Russell especially as well. I mean, they've been really helpful to me on other things because being disabled and autistic and everything else. I needed to get some help from the government in a grant form. They've been really helpful with that as well. So it's a very supportive community. We're all very different people from very different backgrounds, and very different businesses. I mean, especially mine. I mean, I'm the only tailor, and all the networking I've ever done, I'm the only tailor I've ever done. So, and it's great. It's interesting, and I sometimes feel I don't really have anything to offer because I'm in such a different business, but it turns out that I do.
You do.
So,
you definitely do.
It's a great thing to do.
Yeah, I'm with you. And you mentioned something that's very key is that, yes, for the person who's sitting in the hot seat of the big fix, yes, you're going to get inundated with ideas and suggestions. But for the people who are the givers, for the people who are giving, for the people who are contributing, they walk away with something too. And there's something for everyone. So listen, we want you to be a part of this experience called the Big Fix. You can simply reach out to me on whatever platform you are watching this on, and you don't have to come and be in the hot seat right away. No. Reach out to me and say, hey, listen, man, I'd love to just come sit in on a Big Fix and just see what this whole thing is about. We would love to have you. It happens I'm gonna use United States East Coast time. It happens every Wednesday and Thursday morning. It's actually Wednesday and Thursday afternoon in the UK. But you can be a part of this by just reaching out to me. So listen, one more thing before I let you go. Two more things. First thing is, I want to get some advice from you. I want you to give some advice to two different types of people. One, the person who's thinking about entrepreneurship, is teetering on the fence and wants to jump over the fence, but not really sure. Give some advice for that group of people. And then the other group of people is folks like yourself, folks like me, who are already on this journey. We're well on this journey, but just need a little bit of encouragement to keep going.
Difficult. It's difficult in a way because, again, it's just because of the way my brain fires. But I think for like new entrepreneurs, I mean, just go for it. If you need to do just a little bit of research, I think, to make sure that the idea you've got is something that's more nicheable than just a general business. If you've got a great idea for a product, have a little look around, see what's obviously out there, and talk to friends and family. Are great to talk to, but they can be a bit negative sometimes. So, I mean, this is a great thing about the Big Fix is, you can come along as a totally fresh entrepreneur and you've never done it before. You haven't even set your company up yet, but you might have a really good idea that you think, and then it's a great way as a sounding board. And that's what you need. You need a good sounding board. So, maybe have a look at local enterprise organizations. To help understand whether what you're doing is going to be right. Do a bit of market research and do it that way, I think. But yeah, I mean, go for it. I think it's great having your own business, regardless of what you do, whether it's a small sort of what you call in America a mom and pop business, what we call like a little cottage industry here, or whether it's something that could be quite scalable and you've got an exit plan within the next 5 years. It all depends on what you want to do, and how you sort of see what you want, your goals and your dreams in life, and what you want to be able to achieve from that, whether it's financial or spiritual or whatever, For people like us who've been doing it for a while, I mean, again, things like local enterprise schemes and the Big Fix, that kind of community, you need to find a good networking environment where there are like-minded people at the right kind of levels. I did a lot of networking at first at kind of the wrong level. I don't want to get upset anyone, but I networked below where my client avatar, phrase I've learned recently, and my networking avatar, which are two completely different things. Your client avatar, of course, is what your client is and what he does and his hobbies and all that kind of stuff. But then you've also got your networking avatar, and you need to get that really clear. And I think that's somewhere where a lot of entrepreneurs maybe don't quite understand, is to differentiate between those two. So like my networking avatars are things like 5-star wedding planners, people who run Aston Martin showrooms, Aston Martin particularly because I think it's the best car in the world, people who run shooting and hunting events, people who own and run private members clubs. So those are my networking avatars. They're not my clients. They're just where they're dealing already with my clients. So look at things like that. Try and work that out. You need to sort of understand the whole sort of psycho demographic kind of environment of the people you want to work with, and the people who are working with the people you want to work with. And that's quite important. And remember, you're not really selling. You're not, as someone I know, Lee Tunnyware, fantastic entrepreneur, says, you're not selling pens. You're networking. You're working your networks. You're becoming friends with people, and that's how you then get the connections that you want. And it's all about helping, as Pete Russell would say. It's about helping other people with their problems, and then you become the problem solver, and then you're number one in everyone's mind all the time. And this is something I've learned from people within Love Entrepreneur and within another networking group I do.
Man, that is an incredible piece of advice you gave around networking. And I hope that folks that are watching this or maybe watching the replay caught that. If you don't take anything away from this inspirational hour that we've spent, that piece on networking and understanding how to network as it relates to your clients, man, that is an incredible piece of gold that you just shared. So thank you for sharing that. How can we get a hold of you? I'm going to throw something up on the screen, which I think might be a good way, but I know you can connect with him on LinkedIn. If you go to the description where you're watching this, you can see how you can connect with Thom on LinkedIn. Is this the best way that people can connect with you?
Yeah, that's my digital business card.
Okay.
If you put a hyphen in between Thom and Bennett, then you get my master QR, which has all my contact details, including my WhatsApp. WhatsApp messages are great, and don't mind receiving those at all. Maybe not phone calls in the middle of the night, but WhatsApp's fine. And as I said earlier, if you just search for Thom Bennett Tailoring, you'll find all my social media and my web app. I don't have a website as such. I've got what's called a progressive web app. But that still comes under thombennett.co.uk. There's always a hyphen generally in between my two names. But yeah, just search for Thom Bennett Tailoring, you'll find me.
Sounds good, man. Listen, thank you so much for spending this time with me.
No, it's been great.
I don't want you to go anywhere. I'm going to put you backstage of sorts just to wrap the show up, and then I want to come back and say a few words with you, man. But thank you so much for this time.
Thanks for inviting me. Thank you.
We appreciate you, man, and I will talk to you in just a moment.
Okay.
So that was Thom Bennett. I told you the story was going to be inspirational. I tried to warn you ahead of time, so I hope that you took notes. I hope that you have been inspired by this, whether you are looking to jump the fence into entrepreneurship or whether you are already on this journey. There is something that you can take away from this time spent today that will be beneficial for you wherever you are. Reem said, thank you for sharing. Reem, thank you for being a part of this, as well as all the folks that were in the comments. I might miss some folk, Barry and Verna and Reem and Carrie and my guy Wes, Lisa Brown, David and Larry and some of other folks that were there. I think I might have missed Carol and Dez and all the folks that were in the comments. We appreciate you. Juan was in the comments as well. Thank you, Thom. Juan says, listen, this was a great show indeed, Barry. And Barry said, I saw, Barry, your comment earlier where you like, we're going to make that happen for Thom to get him over in Trinidad and Tobago. So listen, as we end this show, again, remember that your failure is an opportunity for follow-up. Your loss is an opportunity for a lesson. Make sure that you are utilizing that. Your distractions and your diversions are not dead ends. And you heard the inspirational story of Thom and the journey. Follow your passion. That passion is the thread that connects all of the aspects of your journey, no matter where that journey may take you. Because the life of an entrepreneur is indeed a journey. You need to enjoy that journey. And a great way to enjoy that journey is to get around other people that are on the journey as well. So if you're interested in learning more about Love Entrepreneurs, which is a fellowship of people that are just, I mean, it's mind blowing how intent they are on helping ordinary people build extraordinary businesses using the Big Fix. We want you to be a part of the Big Fix. Come join the Big Fix as a contributor. Reach out to me, say, Oliver, just send me a message. Hey, bro, you talked about the Big Fix. I want to come. And I'll make sure that you are a part of that. This has been another episode of The Life of an Entrepreneur. We come every Tuesday, unless something happens, with incredible guests that have inspirational stories about their journey of entrepreneurship. And so we hope that you go back, check out the other episodes if you've missed some, and we will see you next time on The Life of an Entrepreneur. God bless.